Hello and welcome. How's everyone doing? I'm doing fine. As usual, the weather isn't as nice anymore because it's winter now and it's foggy and it's cold and we had a bit of snow. You may have seen it in the shorts. So, let's jump into today's video. Today I'm gonna talk about 7 myths that you always hear and I'm gonna give my take on it. This is of course my own opinion and you can have your own. Let's jump into claim number 1. You always need to shoot RAW. RAW is an amazing format. Don't get me wrong. If you know that you will have to edit your pictures afterwards, like doing some color work, adjusting the exposure, it's best to shoot RAW. It offers more flexibility. On the other hand, something to keep in mind is that RAW files take so much more space than JPEGs. If you're going on vacation, for example, and you want to shoot a lot of pictures, going through all the pictures and editing them could take so much time. So shooting JPEG can also make sense. So no, you don't always need to shoot RAW. Modern cameras have become really good at editing pictures. So a picture can also look great straight out of the camera. Some photographers shoot the picture and directly upload it to the agency they're working for. They don't have the time to edit the pictures, so that's a false claim that professional photographers only shoot in RAW. It depends on what you want to do. Some photographers mostly shoot in JPEG. Number 2, I saw this one many times that you only need to shoot with ISO 100 or only with ISO 100, but sometimes I shoot with ISO 200 or 400 and there's not much difference between them. Yes, if you crank the ISO too much, you may introduce grain and some color noise. On the other hand, it's better to have a picture than no picture, because you were afraid to crank up the ISO. A blurry picture with no grain and color noise is still going to be worse than a sharp one with a bit of grain and color noise. So, if you need to, don't be afraid to crank up the ISO. It's not gonna bite you. Trying to shoot the Milky Way with ISO 100 can be really challenging because you can only expose for a certain time before the stars begin to trail. So, number 3, you need an expensive camera to make good pictures. If you're a beginner, you may be afraid of starting because of claims like those. The camera is just a tool that helps you to make better pictures. Yes, the camera may have a better low light performance, be built better, or be faster, but it's only going to help you to increase your picture's quality, but don't make them better. It's still in your hands to compose the picture and shoot it. If you have a potato mounted to a really expensive camera like an R5 or a Sony A9 Mark II, the picture is still going to be bad. So if you can only afford a DSLR for $500 or less, don't let this hold you back. By the way, I made a video series about DSLRs for $500 or less. I'm gonna link a playlist in an info card. Number 4, you need talent to make nice pictures. Yes, it might help, but it's not all. Your first pictures may not be amazing, but if you practice, they will become better. Just practice, watch some tutorials, and have fun. It's like when you're young and you try to learn how to ride a bike. You didn't just grab a bike and be the next winner of the Tour de France. You might fail a few times before you could ride safely. This is the same with photography. The more you practice, the better you get. It's easy to be blinded by all those amazing pictures on social media. I would call this the social media effect, seeing how much like they get. Don't think that MKBHD or Linus from LTT made such amazing videos when they started. Just go on YouTube and saw the videos to see the first ones first. They may not have been the best, but they didn't give up and improve. Number 5. Never put your subject in the middle. This is mostly in relationship with the rule of thirds. You might have heard this one more than once if you're into photography. And I know you are, otherwise you would not watch this video. The rule of thirds is not so much a rule, it's more of a guideline. For example, if you shoot a close-up of a flower, centering it in the frame could make a good-looking picture, and you don't have always to follow this rule. Try different compositions, always following this rule, but also limit your creativity. And maybe avoiding making an awesome shot. I've got some car posters in my room, and some of the cars, they are center framed, and they're still nice pictures. Number 6, you always need to shoot in manual mode. Who didn't hear this one? You're only a true professional if you're shooting in manual mode, but this does not always make sense. If you're shooting in a studio with a controlled light source, you know that it's not going to change because you've set up the lights. On the flip side, if you're shooting a wedding, for example, the aperture priority could be a nice tool to use. So you can choose the aperture and the camera does the rest. Sometimes even setting the ISO to automatic can be a good idea. If you are worried that your camera is going to use a too high ISO, you can limit it in the settings. If the light conditions are a bit trickier, you can always change the ISO manually or adjust the exposure compensation. Now on to the last one, and number 7. Smartphones are going to replace DSLRs or DSLMs. Sometimes from people who don't shoot with those type of cameras. Don't get me wrong, I really enjoy shooting with my phone when I don't have my camera handy. Claiming that smartphones are going to replace them is still a big claim. Yes, they have become really good. I did a comparison between a smartphone and a DSLR. I'm gonna link it in an info card above if you want to check it out later. A smartphone lacks some key features like being able to swap lenses, even if modern phones are shipping with various focal lengths. With the camera you're still more flexible, and with a bigger sensor you can still get better night pictures because it can capture more light. Even if smartphones have become pretty good at this with night mode, the camera is made for photography, so it has the physical buttons and shortcuts which makes it a nicer experience to use. I hope you liked this video. Don't forget to like so this video can spread to more people. Of course, a subscription would be lovely. See you in the next one.